see you in the land of mortar. Death awaits you at the border. Pass on through the gates of fun. Destroy the ring of power and wonder.
Hey, Lord of the Rings fan, Gomer here. Gonna be diving into the world of Middle Earth again. This time we're gonna be taking a look at Greater Harad. This campaign module number 3111, set in southern Middle Earth. It is south and east of the burning sands of Far HArad and lies the city of the Saran. They commanded thriving trade routes of the Greater Harad and the fertile riverine domain tucked between the harsh desert and the daunting spires of the Yellow Mountains. The cover art of this book is done by Agnes McBride. It's pretty cool. I like how they have the one of the silent ones on top of a camel attacking a guy on a ruined bridge. This book was made in 1990. I bought this from Imperial Hobbies for like 18 bucks in the day, something like that. And it does come with a 22 by 17 full color map, which we'll go into later. 3 full colored cities showing Far HArad, and Shenesra, as well as detailed layouts of the ancient mines, haunted caverns, and other adventure sites. You get the in-depth information and the stats. Now, Tolkien never really explained Harad in any great detail. Now, this is the Peter Fenlon map. It's not the Tolkien map. Fenlon made a few additions to the map. The Gondor way up here. You have Harondor, Umbar, the Haradway. So you'd have Near Harad, Far HArad, and this is called Greater Harad. So this module takes place in this area called Isra, Chenekat, and Kermlesra. This is the 5th campaign book dealing with the south, anything south of Gondor. So Umbar, of course, Haven of the Corsairs, Ardor, and the Court of Ardor, Far HArad, Shadow in the south, and then this one, Greater Harad. So I like how I.C.E went above and beyond to show different things. Unfortunately, they never went too far east. So like I said, you get a pretty cool map to go with it, which details Kermlesra, Isra, and Chenekat, and all the Riverine cities. Flip it over, and you have Tol Isra, Tol Harar, Shenesra, and a black and white of Tol Poak. Tol Poak is a city on the caravan way between Far HArad and Greater Harad. The Tol Poak there's a color map in the Far HArad campaign module, but these are some pretty cool layouts. So the author was a guy named William E. Wilson, Jessica Ney was the editor, and Pete Fenlon dealt with the color maps. These are the 3 main guys. Again, with every campaign module, you start with the guidelines, definitions, adapting the campaign, converting stats, converting spells, locks and traps, and other skill bonuses. Nothing that hasn't been seen already. Then it goes into the history, the introduction and the history of Greater Harad. Doesn't really give a lot of detail because most of its history was unwritten. So it does go through the history of the early Second Age when nomadic tribes entered the fertile river valleys. And then it talks about the late Second Age when the blind sorcerer at Corahil, one of the 9 NAzgul, who was a Númenorian in a different colony, started making his presence felt. And it talks about the arrival in the early Third Age about the Haradrim tribes from the north resettling the river valleys and founded camps along the northern foothills. Until shortly after Third Age, 1100, orcs and demons from the south took over the mines and laid siege to the towns and villages closest to the Betark. But then a guy named Obed I of Clan Masra reunited the peoples and recaptured the lands that were lost. And then you have he became the king of Tol Isra, and basically the rulers of Tol Isra between Clan Masra and Clan Bolgan. Currently in 1632, which is where all these adventures campaigns start, it's currently in the hands of Clan Bolgan, and they are more in tune with the dark side. So then it gives you a tale of years, which doesn't have a lot of details. Then into the land itself, you got the climate, the geography, the river basin, a climate chart. You get a riverine wetland area surrounded by desert and mountains. And it goes into Isra, which is the breadbasket of the Syrian, Sarabask, which is like a sunburnt forest, Kermlesra, which is hill country, Chenekat, which is on a plateau, and finally the term Butarak, which is a mountain range, the eastern end of the Yellow Mountains. Flora and fauna gives you what you can find in each area. Kermlesra, Isra, the Sarabask, and Chenekat. Nothing special there, just part of an encounter table, I guess. And finally you go to people and cultures. You have the A10, which are related to the Haradrim of Far HArad. Their political, social structures, military structure, currency, and appearance, as well as their diet, worship. Then it has the Yataligan. They are most closely related to the Druidan, or Drugu people that you find in the White Mountains. And it goes through the same thing, social, military structure, appearance, dress, housing, diet, worship. Then we have the Danak, who are more closely related to the Northmen, genetically. but have become different over time. And the same idea: society and housing, military appearance, diet, worship. And finally we got Nars folk. They are part of Bavor's people, one of the original 7 tribes. Nar was the second son of Bavor and left with his followers and friends after a murder of his father. So they moved into this region, and Bavor is one of the 7 founding fathers. Next up we have the city dwellers. So the Riverine Cities, they all have their own mixed ethnicity, and they have a political, social structure. Slavery is common, military structure, appearance, housing, diet, worship. Gives you an idea of some of the professions of the Riverine Cities, like administrators, priests, soldiers, scribes. They're very much a Middle Eastern feel, an Arabic feel, this culture. Then it goes into the port of Far HArad, again describing its political and society military structure. Then it gives the Harad Navy, which Far HArad has. So it's a mix of black Numenorian and Haradrim ships, which is kind of cool. Because according to the map, Far HArad is the only real port, ocean port, and the Riverine Cities, of course, are along the rivers. Far HArad would be in the Gulf of Harshandat, in that bay. Can't remember what they call it, the Ormal Bay, Bay of Ormal. Next up, power and politics. So it talks about the dark cults, Tabe, the followers of the Silent Ones. It's a Saronic cult that are assassins. Not something you want to have. And they must kill at least once every year to stay in favor with their deity, called Teamurud, the Silent One, the all-seeing, the dark enemy. The individual who fails this duty must commit ritual suicide. And you can see the Eye of Sauron on his chain there. Next up, you got Keepers of the True Flame. The Keepers believe that Malcora was betrayed by Aluva and tricked into exile. So they believe they'll come back. So it's a more gothic cult, which Sauron probably keeps a track of. And then you also have the Desert Screamers, who are the Garks. They range from the Bay of Ormal to the dominions of the southernmost peninsula, above the Yellow Mountains. They are lethal trackers, roam the deserts of the Haradwaith. Assassins themselves. Then you have the remnants of Corhill's Orcish army, 1100 of the Third Age. Then you have his new army, the Army of the Southern Dragon, is a Nai Chennakat. So those are the evil organizations. Then you got the organizations of the Free Peoples, the Tei, the Caravan Masters of Siran, the Kalis Tibirik, who are there to seek the heir to Clan Mazra and place him on the throne, away from the Clan Bolgan's reign. Finally, we get up to people of note. So there's a whole bunch of NPCs. Tartes Hizane is the current ruler of Isra, and he's also a puppet to Corhill. This is what I like. I like how I.C.E fleshed out all the 9 Nazgul, and Corhill is one of them. He's a Numenorian. 3 of the Nazgul were Numenorians, and he took over what's called Sertandor, which was a Numenorian colony in the Second Age, and he switched allegiance, and they got defeated, obviously, and he had to flee. So Corhill has a very unique situation. He's the main Nazgul in that region. You have other people. Beras Gaib is a demon. He's more mischievous than dangerous. Then you have Selene Haskes, which is like an earth spirit, like Goldenberry. Shopkeepers, innkeepers. So a lot of interesting different types of NPCs. Probably the best one is Dar of Far HArad, who is a dwarf. He's a mastersmith, and he runs his own little smithy and inn near the docks. Terralorn of Londernell is a Noldor elf, which is kind of strange. Wouldn't expect to see too many of them down that far. And he's considered a scout, thief, and sailor. Then we got some more dwarves. Gimthor Troll Slayer, Dolan of Zarak Doom, Aldor of Bavor's Folk, and whatnot. So there's a lot of cool NPC players to play with. You have coinage, imports, exports. So we go in the economy and trade. You got coinage, imports, exports, elixirs and herbs, travel distances. So it would take you 200 days to travel from Far HArad or from Isra to Minas Ithil. Then it mentions Tolpoak, which is the city in the desert with 18,000 residents. And it gives a layout of the city with the avenue, and finally the avenues of trade across the desert. Next up, they go through the avenues of trade that crisscross the desert and the mountains. Nothing too special there. There's a whole bunch of them, and then finally they get the cities of the Siran. So next they go into Tal Isra, which is the capital of the Suryan, which is kind of like the capital of this region of the Riverine Cities. Goes into its history of founding in the Second Age, the economy, the inner city, has a bazaar. So it is very much a Middle Eastern feel to this. Tolkien never specified things like that, though he did consider Gondor to be at the same is it latitude or longitude as the Byzantines. It's not too far of a stretch to make that he did this. Anyway, it has the bazaar, the temple of the Silent One, a I.C.E temple and a temple of the true flame. Interesting one, Peshtin's Ark, kind of like Noah's Ark, where it's an inn, and if you spend the night there and it floods, then you're safe. It has a debtor's prison exchange, so it has various buildings inside. Also has some ruins, slave market. Next up it goes to Far HArad, which is the next biggest city. It's on the coast. So there's competition between Isra and Far HArad. Gives you a couple of places. The Drunken Hammer being the best one to go to, as where Dar and Gimthor Troll Slayer have their base of operations. Next up it goes into Rask. So we're going to the smaller riverine cities. Rask located up here. So it's the halfway point, and it's on the Sareshra River. Then there's Chenresra and Tiaret. Chenresra was rebuilt and then ruined again, so it's been many times it's been occupied. Tiaret is on the other side of the forest of the Sarabask. There is a temple of the Silent One within Chenresra, so it's not a good place to go. There's also Tiaret. Its history in that. And then Rask again, Bod Salin, and Tartos, which is close to the mountains. It has various sites. Then it goes into the Palace of Tol Isra. So it gives you some city sites. It gives you Samob's Waters in Tol Isra, the Blue Monkey in Chenresra, and then the Palace of Tol Isra. Why it goes into that much, goes back and forth for some reason, this book does. And you have a layout of Tol Isra, the palace. Very much a Middle Eastern feel, and it keeps going. Then you have the dungeons, the royal prison, simple bell tower, and a I.C.E temple, kind of the same idea, before finally going to the Drunken Hammer and Far HArad, which is pretty cool. Places of note: Tarnet Bazain, which is a watering hole; Garbaros, which is the highest peak in the Tur Baterik. It has the opal mines, the Mahogany Dask on the coastline, which is a Sea Lord stronghold. Akantar, the Black Numenor Seer, uses this. The pirate on the Sea of Ormal. And it gives a layout of that place. It's one of the adventure sites. The tomb of Cathod Hussein in the Mahogany Dask, or Magoli Dask, what do they call it? And an orc stronghold over top. Bar Fallon, which is currently occupied by orcs and a demon, as well as the I.C.E. Bar Fallon is on the edge of the map here, with the Ashkari right there. Neradum is the other main dwarven strong point. And Akora Hill has Fhul, is one of his strongholds. I.C.E. is the stronghold of the Silent Ones. And finally you have Fhul, which is for the army of the Southern Dragon. Now it's got items of note, and then finally in section 12 we get to the adventures. Raiders on the high seas, so you definitely need a boat for that one. And it gives you more of the NPCs, the task. You definitely need a quest for the Southern Hammer, so this is a quest like for the Dwarven side. I tried this with a group of buddies. It was okay. It's long. It's got Maguragoth, the demon of the Tol Betark, however you pronounce it. My pronunciation of these sucks. And it mentions the fire spirit of him. You have to try and get yourself into Eve Fallon and find the Southern Hammer. So it's kind of like a Mines of Moria type idea. And you got the heir to the throne, so you get to look for the heir of the Mazras clan. And you have to travel to Horsehead Peak, so it's more of an interesting one. But again, I didn't like the campaigns in this one. Thought they were kind of weak, but it does give you the military forces of Tol Hisra and the province of Isra. I wish I'd done more and give you the military forces of Kermlesra, Tol Polk, Far HArad, and Chenakat, but it just has Isra. And you get some short scenarios like the Crypt of Cathod Hussein, the Road to Naradum, Spying or Dying, Greater Harad, other times Second Age, Third Age, Fourth Age. Go to your Master NPC table, Herbs and Poison, Master Beast table. The Master Military table is cool, but it doesn't give you any real numbers. So you don't know about anyone else's forces. Encounter tables, Master Encounter table, and that's it. Overall, this was an okay campaign book. It's in the middle. It could have done so much more, especially with the Master Military table with all these cities. It would have been cool to have the army of the South Dragon try to conquer this region, and the forces of Far HArad and Tol Isra joining forces to stop the invasion. That would have been cool. Or you could have had like the warriors of Tol Polak try to take over the Riverine Cities. Something along those lines, because there are endless possibilities militarily. And I wish that this map had connected to the other maps. It would have been so much better. That's one of the problems with the southern modules. They never connected. In fact, with the Shadow in the South, you don't actually get a map. that comes out. Southern Court of Ardor, which is down here, should have connected here, but there's like a huge gap. And then Far HArad doesn't only gives this little area, doesn't give anything else. Umbar doesn't go far enough. So I wish they had done that. I wish they had made all the maps connect, and then connect up with Gondor, which would have been a massive interconnecting map series. They would have really been cool. So Greater Harad, it was a cool book. It gave a lot of information in a region that Tolkien never visited, but at the same time, I found it okay. Not really well playable. Not for what I wanted anyway. But anyway, any Middle-earth role players out there, let me know if you guys had this module, if you guys played it, what you guys thought in the comment section below. And until next time, this has been Roman Dayslam out of here.